Hello, you fantastic whatnots. It is Friday, June 6th in the United States and Canada, and this is a show called What Chaos, presented by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code What Chaos. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. Prize Picks. Run your game in Boston, Massachusetts. My name is David B, and I sit beside Pete Blackburn, and across the room is Sean DePaz. Hello, Sean.
Hello. Hello, Pete.
Hello, everyone. Hello, whatnots. How are we?
Hello, great. We got
I didn't ask you.
What?
I didn't ask you.
Yeah, I didn't ask you. Way to get in there and make it about you.
You guys have fucked this. Like
I didn't.
I began throwing the ball around. I'm ending it.
That's
you guys
fine.
suck at it so fucking badly.
I did my job.
Yes.
I asked Pete what he did, and then he asked the whatnuts, which I don't know.
Oh, sorry.
Are we going to wait?
Sorry for respecting and caring
We're
about
gonna
our
wait.
listeners.
I didn't say that was a problem.
For them to hear what you said, and then they're going to type. Which you were saying before the show that they were stupid, so you think it's going to take them like a long time to do, and then we see it 45 minutes later. We have guests.
I wasn't gonna wait for them to type and respond, but you answered like I was asking you. I wasn't fucking asking you. I'm not gonna shit about what you feel like.
That's the only point I was making. Yeah. I guess that is true. You are
You're your own biggest fan.
It sucks being when you're not a smart person and you feel like you're the smartest person in a situation derogatory. It's very upsetting.
I have full understanding of the situation.
Yes.
I completely know what's going on here.
You
I know what's going on here.
Yeah, I think
we're on the same page.
Yes, we are on the same
But
page.
you fucked it up.
He didn't fuck anything up.
Yes, he did.
Well, you can.
All you had to do is not answer my question, which wasn't directed to you.
He simply asked the whatnuts, which is out. I would say it is out of. I don't think it's a problem inherently, but it is not normal.
We're throwing the ball around. I throw to you.
Yes,
you throw
that
to
is
Pete.
true. Yes.
Pete fucking Jeremy Shockey's it into the stands. And then when I try to continue the play, the only adult in the fucking room get like, hey, that's not what you're like.
Well, he committed a penalty and the play is dead. You don't get to pick up the football and keep running with it, I guess, is ultimately the point.
Okay, so you're saying what we should have done is we should have kicked Pete out.
Yes.
And then
he should have been. That's 10-minute misconduct.
Oh,
it's just you and me now.
If we give 10-minute misconduct, there's going to be a lot of Sean time on the show. Pete and I immediately throw each other out, and then it's just Sean with no Sean cam. Okay. I wanted to get the show going as quickly as possible because we've got a guest to get to very quickly, but I'm glad that conversation happened. Pete, tell the folks what's on the show today.
Today on the show, Elon Musk and Donald Trump are at each other's throats. We're going to talk 45 minutes about that. Political correspondent Bob Stauffer is going to join the show. Also, the Dallas Stars fired Pete DeBoer. What an absolute bomb this morning. Very, very exciting. We're going to talk about that with Sean Shapiro. We're going to talk about DeBoer, the Stars, where they go from here. And then finally, so what? No lockout now? Gary Bettman got behind a mic and said everything's good. We're flush. No lockout.
Not only that, Gary Bettman, but Elliot Friedman off of that was like, this thing is fine.
I haven't worried about a lockout in years. What a blessed life I'm living.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So we'll talk about that and how they might mess it up. But first, we got to spend, we're going to be doing DeBoer stuff throughout the show. We have Bob Stauffer on in just a couple of minutes because he's got a morning skate to cover. So we're going to have him on. We'll talk DeBoer with him, but we'll also talk a lot of things. The Evan Bouchard's bank account mainly I want to discuss with him because right now I feel like that guy's got himself into blank check territory. But let's begin with the Dallas Stars firing Pete DeBoer. It's something that we thought might happen.
I would say we were the first people to discuss it.
You think so?
I mean, we had Shapiro on, and after like game 3, we're like, does he get fired if they lose the series?
I mean, I feel like we brought it up earlier in the playoffs at a point where, like, if we were talking about potential coaches that could get fired in the playoffs, and we're like, what if DeBoer doesn't do it again?
It is crazy. Yeah, I forgot all about that. Man. So Stars get rid of Pete DeBoer. He kind of gets himself fired-ish with how he treats Jake Ottinger in that game 5. But, I mean, was that happening anyway, maybe? Or do you think that was the straw that broke the camel's back? Because that was a very clear, like, John Tortorella-esque, that guy just got himself fired.
Yeah, I do want to ask that to Shapiro. Like, does this happen if he doesn't open his mouth after Game 5? Like, my personal opinion, I feel like everybody was not even really considering him getting fired as that series went along. It's hard to imagine him getting fired, but maybe it does happen. I don't know. I'll ask Sean that question. To me, it feels like he got himself fired.
Jim Nill's statement, that's the GM of the Stars. After careful consideration, we believe that a new voice is needed in our locker room to push us closer to our goal of winning the Stanley Cup. We'd like to thank people. A new voice, huh?
Yeah.
You could have just said we thank Pete for all his time and everything. The new voice thing I do think sets up it was the Ottinger thing. And Ottinger in his breakup day was like, look, you guys can be the coach and I'll go out there and do my best. I took that as fuck that guy. And now he's out of a job because Pete DeBoer didn't have an 8-year deal. Pete DeBoer did have 1 year left on his deal though.
Yeah.
But this is like the Bruins firing Bruce Cassidy in terms of biggest. You fired that guy
and
after all he's done for you. The Dallas Stars in Pete DeBoer's 3 seasons with the team have been the best team in the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, the Western Conference Final 3 years in a row, 3 straight.
Best record in the NHL, though.
3 straight exits. Like, maybe there's a feeling like you keep hitting a wall that you can't get past, and that puts you there. But, like, more to the Cassidy point, this one, both of those came after player interviews. And we got the report, I think it was from Dave Pagnotta, who said, like, unrest in the Dallas Stars locker room. A lot of players voicing displeasure with the way that he handled himself in the Game 5 exit presser. So it does have the overall feeling like this happened because of that.
Okay, let's get to the greatest guest we ever have on. It's the great Bob Stauffer, 880 Ched, Oilers Now. You can hear him on the broadcast with Jack Michaels, and I'm searching for those things after every game. He's the GOAT. What's up, Bob?
What's going on? You got me to the center left here. Do I need to move left or right? What do you think?
Sean?
It's a little smidge to the left, I think.
Perfect. Staff, your reaction to this is the Edmonton Oilers have now gotten a GM fired in LA and a coach fired in Dallas.
Yeah, guys, we were in Dallas, and I was stunned. Everybody was like, what was going on with Jake Ottinger? But what I noticed 2 years in a row, and my theory on this is, like, I thought, Peter DeBoer he's a really smart guy, and he's an experienced coach. But in 2 series in a row, the Oilers kind of took it away from Dallas a bit. And I could sense, and I always got the sense that he was really easy to get along with and a nice fellow, but playoff intensity, right? But I will tell you, before Game 5 in Dallas, and I'm just trying to think of how long ago that was, I guess a week ago today, in his availability, he was asked about the lack of offense that his team had generated the 2 previous games. And he said, and I quote, "The coaches can't put the puck in the net." And I was a little surprised by that comment. Like, and then he proceeded to yank Ottinger out of there at 2-0. And, Jake Ottinger's he might be the U.S.'s goalie, him or Connor Hellebuck for the Olympics. Like, he's a hell of a goaltender. I know the numbers weren't great against the Oilers, but the Oilers have got some good shooters too. So I will say, like, I was surprised by some of his comments, and because of that, I'm not surprised that they made a change. Like, I know he's a good coach. I don't think Dallas likes paying out coaches with the final year in his deal. I think the rumor is it's north of, it's probably, I would assume he's in the $4 million range. He's an accomplished guy. So a little bit of a trend, eh? Like, when you think about it, Darryl Sutter in Calgary, and the Oilers, Calgary were the favorites in round 2 and 22, and Edmonton vanquishes them. Sutter lasts 1 more year, I think, with the Flames, and then Rick Tocchet in Vancouver, 3 separate leads in the series last year, and I'm sure the Canucks completely changed. They're a completely different team now. Dallas has a real good team. That is as well managed of an organization as in their league. So I would trust Jim Nill's judgment, but based on what we saw last Friday in Dallas, I got to tell you, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, that seems fair. Let's talk a little Stanley Cup Final. Are you surprised with what you saw in Game 1?
Pete, no. Because I think these are the two best teams by a wide margin. I think they've proven that during the course of this year's playoffs. I thought Tampa was going to beat Florida. Like, I'm a big goal differential guy, and I looked at the separation that Tampa had there. And, Florida took them out in 5, and 3 of those games weren't that close. Toronto, what happened in Game 5 and Game 7 in Toronto, that's something. And then Carolina, I read that series completely wrong, and I'll tell you why. Carolina plays I love zone defense. Carolina plays a really aggressive man, and so does Florida. And I thought Carolina would be better equipped to handle Florida this time. Now, Carolina had some injuries on defense, and they got some smaller, less edgy forwards. And obviously, Florida clearly bullied them a little bit. So, Florida's got a real good team. And then you look at Edmonton, and I think that most people will now concede the Oilers have a real good team. So, and you take a look at how Edmonton beat 2 professional. Like, the comeback against LA is one thing. It's different when you're beating Vegas and Dallas, with all due respect to the Kings. The Kings haven't been out of the first round the last several years. So both of these clubs have structure and process in their game. They do have a degree of physicality. Edmonton has much more physicality this year than they had last year. That's one of the identifiable differences between the Oilers this season. The Oilers have a lot of depth. So does Florida. Paul Maurice is generally considered a top-flight coach. I'd suggest to you, Chris Knobloch's the first coach since Scotty Bowman to get back to the Stanley Cup Final in his first 2 years as a head coach in the league. I think we're going to be talking in a couple of years' time that Chris is amongst the best coaches in the league. So well-managed, well-coached, both made additions during the year. I think both teams are better, than the ones that played in the Stanley Cup Final last year. And we had an awesome game. You guys have been in this building. It was an incredible experience to be a part of. It was electrifying. Florida built up a lead, and the Oilers found a way to do something that nobody else has done in the last 31 games. And that's right. What did you guys think of it, by the way? DJ, what did you think?
I was watching the biggest thing that I can remember myself saying during that game was we get to learn once Stu had given up the 3rd goal and it's less than halfway through the game. We get to learn if Stu can do I just allowed 3 goals game, and not 3 goals over 60 minutes, but 3 goals over 30 minutes that turns into 3 goals over 60 minutes. And I thought he was the best player on the ice in the second period. I thought he was unbelievable. But I also, Bob, got the sense when it was 3-1 that the Oilers aren't in Kansas anymore. That playing the Panthers is a completely different animal than playing
100%.
Vegas or playing Dallas. Yet I still kind of felt that the Oilers could do their thing and be the comeback kids. So, how do you grapple with the Panthers are so much better than anything they've seen, yet I don't feel the Oilers are suffocated by that. They can still kind of do their thing as they did.
Well, and I'm going to ask Pete this. Pete, how different do you think the physical makeup of the Oilers? They didn't have Evander Kane. You guys were... you're down in Florida last year. I think you came to Edmonton as well, maybe for Game 6. The Oilers didn't have Evander Kane. They didn't have Vasily Podkolzin. They didn't have Trent Frederick. And Pete, you guys watched the Bruins, and they used to be. Before you two guys were born, they were the big bad Bruins back in the day, right? So how different do you think? I have my own personal assessment on the makeup of the Oilers, and maybe some people say, well, they don't have the same speed without Holloway and McLeod and Fogle. But they got a different degree of tenacity, and they have more options. But just the physicality, what do you think, Pete?
Yeah, it definitely feels like they're not going to be intimidated. Last year you had Evan Bouchard tapping out of a chokehold from Aaron Ekblad, which I thought was a very bad look for him and for the Oilers in terms of response. This year, they're giving it as good as they get it, and I think that's huge for them going up against Florida. I don't know if they're going to be able to match the greasiness that Florida does, just because I don't think anybody can match the greasiness that Florida brings. But Edmonton will absolutely punch back and not be intimidated this year, and I think that's a big step forward for them.
Yeah, I just, with Bouchard, I think we've seen an evolution here. He didn't kill penalties last year. He's 3rd on the Oilers in time on ice in the PK. He's the highest scoring defenseman in the league over the last 4 years. This is going to be the third consecutive year that Evan Bouchard's led all defensemen in points in the playoffs. But just think of the stick that he gave Hintz in game number 4 in Edmonton here. He didn't have that kind of gamesmanship last year. And I remember I discussed with him, you have a stick in your hand, and when a guy does that, right, like with what happened with Ekblad, just stick him, chop him. But when you got Evander Kane drilling Aaron Ekblad every chance he gets, like some D don't like going back and getting pucks, just like some guys don't like having to get pucks off against the wall. And I know Evander, and Evander can really handle himself. And there is still part of it, like Sam Bennett, when he fights like he's fighting for his life. Like he's gone toe-to-toe with Darnell Nurse when he was with the Flames, and he will trade shots with anybody. Remember the one he had with Trouba? Like there was blood spilled in that fight. But Evander, he pumps guys. Like he can destroy guys. He's got real fast hands. And I just think it's a little bit different of a dynamic having Evander in this year. And then you have Frederick. You have another guy. And then Colson has been, he's been pounding guys. You guys had, Jeremy Lozon in Boston, but Colson dropped him in Nashville earlier this year. So and then you still got Darnell Nurse, I was talking to Scotty Bowman. He came to Edmonton for game 1. And he was telling me about one of the guys he used to work with, Al McNeil, who just passed away recently in the Canadiens organization. And he said that Al McNeil used to compare Darnell Nurse a bit to Larry Robinson. Well, Larry Robinson infamously destroyed Dave Schultz back in the 73-74 season. And Darnell is another guy that so now last year Darnell was hurt, Evander was hurt, Leon was hurt. The Oilers had to expand a lot of energy to get past Vancouver in 7 and Dallas in 6. They're healthier, and they've got a lot of edge in their lineup, and they can combat some of that physicality for me that Florida's got.
I mean, there's so many great things you hit there. Like I want at some point, it might take after the series to end, maybe with an Edmonton win, for Evander Kane to admit that he's obsessed with Matthew Tkachuk. Is that correct? He said the other day, he was like, oh, well, it's just like playing against any other player. But like going back to the Battle of Alberta, Evander Kane hates Matthew Tkachuk with every fiber of his being, correct?
I just did the response. I just did the Evander Kane response.
Oh, yeah, right.
I think it's more that Evander Kane loves like that arena, like that sort of situation, and he just like gets so horny for it that like he won't admit what Matthew Tkachuk does to him and does for him. But I don't know if he hates him. Yeah. But I mean, you are both right, and we've said on this show that like Edmonton is the most physical team that Florida has faced. Other teams have thrown more hits than the Oilers, but that's because they've had to play Florida and they're just trying to keep up. But Edmonton is the most physical team. They also do, like you mentioned, Nurse, like they have some, not to the degree of the Panthers, but I think it's good to have some dirty players on your roster. I love Darnell Nurse. I think he's a pretty dirty player sometimes, not to the degree of like the brilliance of a Brad Marchand or a Sam Bennett, but there are guys on Edmonton's roster where you think twice before you pull any shit on them. And I think that it didn't really feel that way with the Oilers last year. It felt like the Oilers were one type of team and Florida was another type of team. Yeah, DJ, I think that's a fair comment. I mean, I saw a humorous, we haven't even mentioned one of the guys. Like you talked about Marchand. I forget who tweeted out, but somebody said, Florida has an old, nasty little jerk that stirs the proverbial crap out on the ice. What word? Yeah, yes. See one? He used a couple other words for that, and then he goes, and the Oilers have an old, nasty, big jerk that stirs the proverbial you-know-what. Like, so they've each kind of got that guy. I mean, what Corey Perry was amongst the most despised players in Edmonton for years. The year he got the 3 overtime goals. Well, unfortunately, one of those overtime goals was in Game 5 when Edmonton blew. The first time in NHL history, a team had blown a 3-goal lead in the final 3:59 of a game to lose 4-3 in double overtime. But now Corey Perry right now is probably, I got a friend that's one of our advertisers on our show, and he tells me Corey Perry's
his jerseys and all that name and likeness stuff. Third most popular player right now behind McDavid and Draisaitl. Our fans love him. And, look at the play he made in overtime. Like just the deft touch to create the time and space for Connor. I mean, it's just an elite level. He's got great, hash marks in. He's still an elite player. And, I mean, and it gives both teams have got a guy with a ton of playoff experience that know how to agitate the opposition.
I mean, that's Pete's guy. Pete has become such
there
a
you go.
Perry head.
That's the way, Pete. That's
Absolutely
the way, Pete.
Loves him. I want to talk about Evan Bouchard and specifically his bank account, because there were times throughout this year where you would say, oh, God, what are they going to give him? Is this the type of player that you want to give $9 million a year to? I mean, $9 million is a lot of money. It would be a miracle if the Oilers got Evan Bouchard for even $10 million annually. He has become a surefire, or at least right now. But like right now, he is indisputably a top 5 defenseman in the NHL. He's Bobby Orr plus Zdeno Chara. So right now, AFP Analytics, who nails these contract projections, has him at 8 times $10.8 million. And we all know that if it gets to July 5th or 6th and it goes to arbitration, he shoves it up there, you know what. Has Evan Bouchard entered blank check territory?
No, there's only one guy that's in the blind check territory in this offseason. His name's Connor. But he's close. And it's funny, I had an animated discussion with one of the agents out there and said, I can't sit there and say, well, Evan's worth what Rasmus Dahlin's worth. And the agent responded and said, oh, yeah, Bob, where's Rasmus Dahlin in all-time playoff scoring for defensemen? And I was like, touche, good point. Because Evan is second in points per game. As I mentioned, he's led the playoffs in defense scoring the last 4 years. He's going to lead it again this year. And now they've added penalty killing to his repertoire, right? They needed a right shot penalty killer out of necessity because they were playing Ekholm and Emerson in their top D pairing on the PK. And Stetcher outplayed Emerson 5v5 when Ekholm was out of the lineup. So that meant that Evan had to take on some more minutes, and he's done pretty well in the PK. He's continued to grow and progress, and it's going to be a very interesting offseason with the McDavid and Bouchard negotiations. But they got some work to do before then.
Do you get the sense that he's unlocked something, or is it more just a product of does he leave something on the table during the regular season? Because obviously the story with Bouchard is you take the good with the bad, but in the playoffs, we've seen it so many times. Sometimes there's just not a lot of bad.
Pete, it's interesting. I saw an interview that Vasily Podkolzin did in Russian at the start of the year, and he talked about how calm the team was with the 0-3 start. Because when you're in a Canadian market where hockey is everything, the level of, and this circles back to what Pete DeBoer goes through in Dallas, has gone through the last 3 years. The Stars are buried there, right? There's not a lot of pressure in that market. They got a good team. The players like playing there, and everybody's focused on the Cowboys. Well, guess what? The Oilers are the Green Bay Packers of the NHL. And they get and they have 2 of the best players on the planet. So they get a lot of oxygen from around the league. There might be some other media people in other markets that say Edmonton gets too much oxygen and too much intensity. But it seems ratcheted up all year. But the team was always comfortable. There'd be times that, I'm a little bit of, obviously we can all see, what the hope for Edmonton to accomplish is going to be. And there were a couple of rough stretches during the year, and the team showed complete composure. They never, and I think that Bouchard, to a certain extent, is an extended metaphor of that. I get it. There's moments where he has egregious giveaways, and, fans are all over him. But at the end of the day, the best people in every wake of life, in every industry, the best people can make the best decisions under stress. That's what makes them the best, right? They make the right call at the right time on a business decision, or an athlete makes the right split-second decision, under crunch time. And that's what Bouchard can do. And I know I've mentioned Larry Murphy to you guys before. Larry Murphy played 1,600 games in the NHL and had 1,200 points. And the fans in Toronto booed him right out of the city. And then he went to Detroit, won a couple more Stanley Cups. We identify guys on the fence that run around, cream guys in the corner, stop cycles, give guys shots, maybe fight once in a while. but a guy that has the puck the most, that the best players want to play with, sometimes we overreact to small mistakes that occur during the course of the game.
Okay, I would love to ask you about Pink Pony Club and Pride Month and how it just seems like fate that the Oilers are going to win. They're doing the gayest stuff in the world at the gayest time. They're going to win the cup because of it, I think. Can't spend 20 minutes on that. I'll ask you, what is Leon Draisaitl's demeanor?
He doesn't sweat fools.
Like I mean, like now, like because you told me that a couple of years ago when he was playing on like one leg that he was just like, this is my job.
Oh, he does not sweat fools. Don't ask him about injuries, but he's completely healthy right now. Those 2 5-game series and getting 3 or 4 days off in between the Vegas series and the Dallas series, and then between the Dallas series and the final, that's helped the Oilers out. Leon's at a completely different place. The line I've used is he's got the pain threshold, of a cadaver. That's kind of, he's tough. He's a tough guy. He would never let you know if he was hurt, but I'm telling you, he's in way better shape right now in terms of physically, as compared to last year. Like, he was seriously compromised during the Stanley Cup Final, and it undermined the Oilers. Like, if they have a healthy Draisaitl and Kane, I'm not convinced they lose that series. Okay? It's a one-bounce game in Game 7 that the Oilers roared back. They outscored Florida 19-7 in the final 4 games of the series. They would have found a way to win one of the first, either Game 1 or Game 3. Florida outright outplayed Edmonton in Game 2. Game 1, the Oilers outshot Florida 32-18, couldn't score. Kane was dashed 3 in Game 2 last year, got pulled out of lineup. Those guys are both healthy. They're playing on the same line. Look at that line. Kane, Draisaitl, Kapanen. Think about that for a second. 2 guys that weren't healthy and a guy that was waved through the league. I mean, Kapanen's got 3 goals, 5 points, plus 6 in 8 games in the playoffs. And he came in, the end of the Vegas series. He came in come crunch time. So they're in a good spot right now with specifically DJ with Leon and Evander.
Okay,
they just hit the ice here, boys.
I know they need you out there. Tell Pete we have to make Pete come for Game 5.
Pete, you got to come for Game 5. You bring in the water. You bring some water, mix in some water, and you'll have a hell of a time here in Edmonton.
I don't doubt it. I want to see what the series looks like before I commit to going to Game 5. I'm a clinching scenario only kind of guy at this point.
You guys already came here once this year, right? You did your Zach Hyman interview.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
Think about that. They're in this position. They're 2-0 since Zach's got out of the lineup. They got a deep team. They miss Zach. He's a heart and soul guy. One of the 2 great acquisitions that Ken Holland made. Free agent signing obviously for Hyman, trade for Ekholm. They got Ekholm back. It was kind of a trade-off. Guys, this is the best defense they've had since 1987. Okay?
We love it.
And I think the 87 team was the best team Edmonton ever had. I know they went 7 games with the Flyers, but they had Kent Ilson on the second line with Messier and Anderson and Gretzky, Curry, and Tikkanen on the first line. And they had Coffey in one pairing, Kevin Lowe in another pairing, and Ray Rutsalainen in the third pairing. They had a hell of a team with Brant Fear and Andy Moog.
Well, if I end up in Edmonton for Game 5, just know that you're a big part of the reason why. So we love you so much. I know everybody here does. So thanks for coming on. Very much appreciate it. Enjoy Game 2. And I'm sure this won't be the last time we talk to you.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Thanks for having me on.
Love you, Bob. See ya.
Cheers.
The best.
Oh, Bob Stauffer. We love him so much. Just like we love. Hold on.
Oh, who do we love?
Shady Rays.
No, I knew it.
What?
No, I knew it.
You knew that we loved Shady Rays?
I didn't need you to tell me that we love Shady Rays.
It is a point. The Kirk in the chat just. I do want to. We haven't had like a real Pink Pony Club conversation, but other than like would Chapel Roan and Leon Draisaitl get along, which is probably the best one.
Yeah.
But like it dawned on me this morning. I'm like, they're doing the gayest like thing you could do, which literally not. But like that Pink Pony Club
as far
is
as
their
we know.
song. It's Pride Month, like it's all swirling together.
I sent this in the group chat yesterday. On my wall, on my gallery wall in my living room, I have a photo of Gene Principe, the great Gene Principe.
Don't we all?
Modeling our What Chaos stuff. Yes, I have a picture of Gene modeling What Chaos stuff on my wall in my living room. But right above that photo of Gene is a Pink Pony Club art poster. So if that's not fate, what is?
When we go to Game 5, Pete's going to dress like Chappell Roan.
I'm going to dress like a pink pony.
I don't hate it. Okay. I love Prize Picks. I mean, Shady Rays. I love everything. I love Shady Rays. They got shades in every color. They are the best sunglass company. And last night, you know what? I was out sitting along the water, and I was like, dang, if I'm not an idiot, I'd left my Shady Rays in my car. It was the only thing that was missing. Shady Rays completes the picture. That is a wonderful spring, as it is currently, but soon to be summer, day, evening, whatever it may be. They have shades in all sorts of colors, maybe even your team's colors.
Ooh.
How about that? You can get them in orange. I got a nice little orange pair, but hundreds of options to choose from. Frames, colors, styles. As you get older, your face might change, your ideal shape for frames might change, but I promise you, Shady Rays will have something for you. Plus, if they ever go missing or they take an unexpected hit, don't you sweat it. They have the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by the lost or broken replacement policy. So if you accidentally fall in the water, get out of the water, and mermaid or something ganks them.
Yeah. Well,
Mermaid gets to keep those, but you get new ones.
Okay.
What were you going to do?
I was going to say, like, Shady Rays, new idea. You fall into the water, the shades automatically deploy floaties. No drowning risk when you wear Shady Rays and fall into water.
I don't like, though, that now we're therefore saying that
they're not drowning preventative.
Yes.
Fair.
To our knowledge, no sunglasses are drown proof.
But
but Shady Rays comes in whatever colors you want.
That's true. That's true. What's more important to you?
And they're backed by the lost or broken replacement policy. And if you don't love your shades, you can exchange it for a new pair or return worry-free within 30 days. But I'm just telling you, I don't think that's happening. I think you're getting them and you're loving them, because that's been my experience with Shady Rays. And it's been everyone I know who has used Shady Rays. It's been their experience. This is the best sunglass brand we know. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is going to give out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code AC35 for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
David, I'm going to give you my phone right now and just show you my settled bets on FanDuel.
Okay.
Just take a little scroll down my recent settled bets.
What am I looking at?
Like, look at how much green.
I'm kidding.
Look at how much green. Look at how much green there is on this recent feed of settled bets.
I mean, it is all Corey Perry bets.
And it's a lot of green, is it not?
Mm-hmm.
That's because the HOF app is helping me just cash so many bets.
That's right, folks. The HOF app is what told Pete to throw 1 million bets on Corey Perry.
It's not.
He was
only
never going to do it.
It's not only Corey Perry. We've got some overs. We've got some unders. We've got some straight up money line Edmonton Oilers here. I'm hitting on everything right now. It's unbelievable. I'm not even joking. I know this is part of the ad read, but the HOF app has helped me be so much better at betting, and it can help you too, because we're talking about matchup grades, historical data, leg correlation tools, player performance insights. Yes, it applies to Corey Perry as well. But if you're a sports bettor and you are tired of throwing money at parlays or just losing bets, then download the HOF bets, because it's going to help you become a much better sports gambler. It's got 4.9 rating in the App Store with over 6,000 5-star reviews for a reason. It's safe to say the HOF app has helped a ton of people, smart or otherwise, win bets. Just bet smarter with the HOF app. And for a limited time only, our listeners are going to get a 7-day free trial. You're also going to get 50% off your first month when you use code CHAOS at checkout. Just download the HOF app on iOS and Android and visit hofbets.com, entering code CHAOS, and you're all set. One more time, that's 7-day free trial, 50% off your first month with code CHAOS at hofbets.com or the HOF app on iOS and Android.
Stars fire Pete DeBoer. Pete, your initial reaction was like, wow, how did this all get so bad or so crazy for the Stars right now? Like, are they sneaky a mess?
Yeah, I don't think it's sneaky anymore. I asked the question, like, is this the biggest crash out that you've seen from a team immediately after hitting the conference final? And I said that on Twitter, and a lot of people push back with, like, you know, the New York Rangers won the President's Trophy last year. They reached the conference final. This year, they flame out. They fire their coach. They're terrible. They missed the playoffs. Sure, but take away the immediacy factor there, because we're talking about last year's team that made the conference final. We're days away, or I guess like a week or two away from the Stars hitting the conference final. Not only do they suck in the conference final, they're a shell of themselves. They can't score goals. Their coach throws their goaltender under the bus. They end up firing the they end up firing the coach instead of the goaltender. But like, it all falls apart immediately and just comes crashing and burning down. And now we're talking about trading Jason Robertson. Like, the Stars are an absolute disaster right now.
So where do you think they're going to be a year from now? We don't know who their head coach is going to be. I mean, it could be Misha Donskov. Maybe this all explains why he didn't get a gig. But I know that some teams that were looking at him were like, this guy hasn't really been a head coach, so he's more of a team builder. He did all this stuff with Vegas, but not a head coach. Maybe he's the Stars head coach, but where do you think they are, say, a year from now?
It's a good question.
They're
still going to be a good team, I would imagine. And like, I don't think that firing DeBoer is the wrong answer here. Like, we had the discussion after Game 5. We kind of felt like you had to fire him based off of the things that he said about your franchise goaltender. And it comes out days later that, like, these players didn't like that. Ray Ferraro, who I feel like is a very, very pragmatic person, doesn't like being hot takey, had the energy of like, oh, that was totally unacceptable from DeBoer after that Game 5. And I just think, bigger picture, he's blamed everybody but himself.
Yes. Oh, I mean, he was bitch city in that series. Like,
blamed the officiating.
Yeah.
Blamed the other team's players for being dirty. Like, blamed his offense, like, and his players for not scoring goals, which, like, to a certain degree I get, but like, how many struggles are you going to pick without putting some blame and some shine on your own coaching staff, on yourself? I think you have to take accountability, and ultimately it's hard to escape the feeling like Pete DeBoer is the reason that Pete DeBoer does not have a job today.
Okay, we had discussed that he had a year left on his deal and then maybe the Stars wouldn't fire him. Here's what ends up happening. The Stars season ends. There are 3 head coaching vacancies. Sean had to remind me it was 3, not 2. Always forget about the Kraken. They fire him the day after the final head coaching vacancy is filled. Did they do him dirty?
No, I mean, I think they got to do their due diligence. They got to take their time to make a decision that's right for their team. I think, again, it comes after you have the exit interviews and you hear from these players and decide if you're able to move forward with DeBoer, if you want to move forward with DeBoer. And I don't think they owe him anything in terms of like making him available so that he can catch a job with one of these other teams. If Pete DeBoer wanted to talk himself out of a job and have availability to land in another spot, should have lost in the first round, my friend. Shouldn't have let Mikko Rantanen save your ass.
Thought about it for a little bit.
Yeah. So I don't really think about that at all. And ultimately, I think Pete DeBoer made his own bed.
2 things before we get to Sean Shapiro. Which teams that hired new coaches do you think see this and say, fuck, DeBoer was available? Because at the top of my list by a mile is the Anaheim Ducks. If Pete DeBoer coaches the Ducks next season, they're a playoff team.
I mean, who's to say that
they might
not
be
going
anyway.
to be with
Joel Quenneville's
Quenneville?
A great coach.
Like, I don't think I don't know if I would take DeBoer over Quenneville.
Whoa. I do. I would take DeBoer over Quenneville because He's been doing it more recently, but Quenneville is like pretty bulletproof. Either way, they got a great coach.
Yeah, and I mean, you throw out the Rangers. I think the Rangers got their guy. I don't think they're going to regret not having Pete DeBoer. Maybe the Penguins?
Was texting with Petey this morning about it because I bounced this off him, and he brought up the Penguins, and I was like, oh God, that would be such a Penguins thing to do if they were like, we got Pete DeBoer, we got Sid and Gino, we're good. We're taking another run at it. And that would be the most fruitless, but obviously Penguins thing to do. So maybe it's good that maybe the Stars saved the Penguins from themselves. Now, a lot of leashes just got shorter.
I think that's probably
Jim
true.
Hiller in LA, Andrew Brunette in Nashville, my two. Who else do you think? Lindy,
maybe. Yeah.
My only response to all of those is like, where could they get any shorter than they were before the coaches were fired?
I think that's the fair response. Like, I think Lindy was
Particularly
probably on a
Lindy.
short leash. Anyway.
Lindy's getting fired if they don't make the playoffs.
I think
but
Lindy might
Lindy
get fired
this-
mid-season.
I don't know if he
year.
gets fired in season because I think that the Sabres right now are giving up such a vibe of they don't know that the hockey season's happening. Like they're going to forget, I'm not kidding, to fire their coach.
I don't think that's
No,
the case
because now
anymore.
they have Yarmo.
Yeah, I
that's
think they
true.
have the vibe I get from them now is like everyone is unemployed if this shit doesn't work this year. So I don't know. And then like the other two guys you mentioned, like I feel like Hiller's leash got as short as it could after the first round. Like I feel like if he doesn't get past the first round next year, he's going to get fired.
I'll tell you what I'm really rooting for here. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Misha probably gets the job in Dallas. I really want Jay Woodcroft to end up in Dallas.
Oh, I already made that Photoshop.
I want it
Yeah.
so bad because it would be the funniest outcome if the Oilers lightly get DeBoer fired. We all know that he got himself fired, but like the Oilers knocking out the Stars 2 years in a row, them hiring Woodcroft, and then the Stars beating the Oilers next year would be incredible.
I'll tell you what, Woodcroft would not be a bad hire for that team. Woodcroft is a very high floor coach, and I think that obviously the Stars want to take the next step, but you also kind of want to mitigate the damage right now. And
Sure.
I like Eileen, one of our best whatnuts, said that the Robertson trade thing has been shot down by reporters. I will remind you, the Dallas Stars, specifically Jim Nill, said, I am not trading Logan Stankoven. So like these things do change, but the point is well taken. I don't think they should be in a hurry to trade Jason Robertson, but I think everything's on the table for them.
Yeah.
And if you could offer sheet players that if you could offer sheet expensive players, meaning like you could steal a guy without having to give up 4 first-round picks, wouldn't the Stars just slash all their money and give Evan Bouchard as much money as they possibly could?
I mean,
like they need that guy so fucking badly.
I mean,
A lot of teams do, but like no team needs a star
I don't think they
right shot defenseman like Dallas.
I mean, they have Miro Heiskanen, but that would be incredible. A team that has Miro Heiskanen and Evan Bouchard. I feel like the Stars need more of a defensive-minded right shot defenseman.
That's what we thought about Edmonton. And Stan Bowman was like, guys, you're right. We're signing John Klingberg and trading for Jake Wallman. And they have the best defense in the NHL. So what do we know? Let's bring on our dear friend Sean Shapiro from DLLS. And did I say the proper amount of L's? I kind of slurred them. DLLS. Bill Cosby voice. Jello. Hey, buddy.
How's it going?
And Elite Prospects. Sean, we talked about this kind of like dancey thing of like, would they really do it? Do they? And now they do. Your reaction to the Stars firing Pete DeBoer?
Yeah, there's a couple ways I look at it, but the best example I can do is it's Jake Ottinger never pushed the buttons, but it's the equivalent of you don't kill a religious leader is basically what it is. Where when you go and you when you put the guy up on the cross, all of a sudden all of his acolytes then realize that they could come for us next. And so that's basically what happened here, where Jake Ottinger never poisoned the well. He's never doing anything, but Jake was really much Jake Ottinger would wear a letter on that team if goalies were allowed to wear letters. He's the guy who organizes. Yeah, they should be. and he organizes team golf outings. He's the guy when all 5 of the Stars Finns found a sauna on the road. Jake Ottinger was the guy who found it. So Pete didn't just sewer a goalie. He went and sewered the guy who was basically the team party planner. And so when you go and do that, all of a sudden everyone else's grievances, well, hey, if Jake is going to be backed over with a bus twice, everyone else all of a sudden next interview says, well, screw that, and basically comes to Jake's defense without Jake ever having to call for it. That's what happened. Pete DeBoer lost the room because of how poorly he handled the Jake Ottinger situation. And it's not even the pull. Everyone's going to be, oh, he pulled him after 2 shots. The biggest thing is Pete did not talk to Jake before meeting the media on Saturday, 48 hours after making the pull. He makes the pull. There's a full 24 hour. There's a whole Friday. Both Ottinger and DeBoer hold their own exit meetings with the media. They still haven't spoken, either of them. And here's the great thing is Jake Ottinger's not a hard guy to get a hold of. I actually texted him myself during that time, and Jake took the time to respond to my text. And so if Jake is responding to Sean Shapiro and I'm a nobody, he definitely would have had time to talk to Pete DeBoer, for his head coach, and bury the hatchet for a little bit, or whatever terminology we need to use right now. So that's what Pete did. Pete basically lost the room by sewering his goalie and not taking the time to do any of his own damage control in his own room with Jake afterwards. That's what happened.
Well, let me ask
a guy who didn't give a fuck then.
Well, let me ask, that's what my question is like, do you get the sense of like, did Pete DeBoer want to get fired? Did he say, I've got 1 more year left on this contract. I can get paid for doing nothing rather than losing in the conference final for a 4th straight year? It sounds like a ridiculous question, but is there a non-zero chance that he just wanted to fucking sit on his couch this year?
I don't know if it goes that far, but there is a extreme element of I'm making $4.25 million with no stress attached to it. Isn't bad, because that's what Pete's going to make this year. So he's going to get to make that money to sit at home and do nothing. And I know, like you guys were saying before I hopped in, like, did the Stars do Pete dirty by not waiting for a job to open? Honestly, if the Stars were going to let him go, and you've got an owner in Tom Ghilardi who worries about dollars and cents, and a week ago said, I would never fire Pete DeBoer, wouldn't you try to get him out the door before those happen so you save the money? Because if they get him fired before the Bruins job is filled, before any of the other jobs are filled, all of a sudden they're off the hook for that $4.25 million. So I think I think it really was the Stars doing their timing and due diligence, but it was it doesn't. I thought I gave DeBoer a little bit of grace afterwards, after it happened. Like, oh, maybe it's just an emotional thing, like right after the game. But it's the not following up afterwards, no kind of taking credit for himself, never taking it, basically putting the blame everywhere else the entire time. Just maybe maybe he did want to go. Maybe that's the answer. So I don't know. It's baffling, man.
So Jim Neal says new voice. Does that voice belong to Misha Donskov? Does that, like, it seems like the Stars like their group, and that, tell me if I'm wrong, and that one guy kind of upset it. So do they promote Donskov? They obviously, like, the list of available coaches was shorter than we thought would be anyway, because Carl went back to college. So is it just as simple as that, or do they open this thing up?
Well, I think you have to call David Carl either way. Like, I know he went back to college and he signed the 5-year extension, but there's definitely college coaches all have some sort of activation in there. And Carl said he was waiting for the right job. So you have to, if you're Dallas, you owe it to yourself to make that call to David Carl to say, are we the right job? Because I think you have to make that call. It could be a very quick, but if you're David Carl, how is Dallas not the right job? If you were ever to go to the NHL and make the jump, how is this not the right job, right? So if you're Dallas, you go and make that call. You mentioned Donskov, and he's obviously an assistant coach there, and he was part of the Team Canada staff. And I've spoken to Misa a lot, and I like him a lot, but he's never been a head coach at the junior or pro level ever before. He's worked everything. And so, not saying he couldn't be, but if you're a team trying to win a Stanley Cup and you're making a hire, are you willing to put all your eggs in a basket of someone who's never been a head coach at the pro level? I don't know if the Stars would be willing to do that. The funny one, and I'm surprised you guys didn't bring this up, is what about when Glenn Gullinson's available to interview in about 8 days? And
Who?
Glenn Golitzin, assistant coach in Edmonton, runs the power play there. Former Dallas coach in 2010 and 2011. Really good relationship with Jamie Benn. So if you still are going to bring back Jamie Benn, he's probably one of the ways you make that work. And he's a guy who we've always polled, well, Glenn has never gotten these opportunities before because the last 2 years, because the Oilers have gone too deep in the playoffs for openings to be available. So are we looking at the Glenn Golitzin opportunity to have knocked Dallas out, running their power play, as you saw last night, power play goal in overtime, to now go to Dallas, back where he was a head coach before and now has that experience? So I wouldn't be surprised if the Stars are calling the Oilers, but not necessarily about Woodcroft could be an option too, but Golitzin is the more hilarious and maybe even realistic option here right now.
Okay, I'm going to put our dear producer Sean on the spot here. Sean, could you please give me your top 5 reasons why the Edmonton Oilers power play is awesome?
Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Corey Perry, I guess now, and sometimes always, and Evan Bouchard.
There you go.
That's my top 5
That's my
as
top
well.
5 as well. Yep. I will say, you said the word hilarious. I think Carl would be hilarious. Woodcroft would be hilarious. Carl would be hilarious. It'd be the second time in a calendar year that Dallas has stolen a pride of Denver. And that part of it would be funny. Also, the Denver University to Dallas Stars pipeline would get even stronger. That to me would be amazing. But I do want to ask, like, on the DeBoer side of things, if you're a team looking at hiring DeBoer, would you, after his last 2 stints, have some hesitation about the way that he treats his players, specifically his goaltenders?
It would definitely come up for me. It's something where I think it depends on I think Pete's handling of his goalies and how things have gone, I think it's really hurt his chances for a opportunity with a real contender, right? Because I think that's one of those where Pete's biggest flaw is what happens when there's only 4 teams left in the playoffs. But he also has the ability to get you to the Final Four. There's lots of teams that would be falling over themselves to have the problem of, oh no, we've been in the Final Four 3 years in a row. So I think he will still get opportunity for that reason. I do think Pete is probably, wherever he goes next, and we know he'll end up somewhere next, he's probably going to, wherever he goes, it's probably going to have to take somebody from a management perspective who's going to have to ask the hard question of, can I bring you in? And can you please just not touch the goalie at all? Just let the goalie coach do their job. Don't do anything with the goalie, and you just coach everything else in front of them. And if you can do that, I think Pete's fine. Because we know, when we look back to the poll and how it happened, we know he didn't consult the Stars goalie coach Jeff Reese when he pulled Jake Ottinger. And obviously he's had to live with that, and that's his decision. So if you're the next GM and you're talking to Pete DeBoer, it becomes, all right, we like what you do, but can you come in and can you just please leave the goalie alone? Just accept it. Find some mantra to say whenever you get asked about it. Just leave it alone. You could just adopt. So many other coaches have said it. I know nothing about goaltending and just been repeated that. So Pete just needs to take that out of someone else's playbook and he'll get another job.
Sean, I realized it like 44 seconds later, but the Golitzin 8 days thing went right over my head. So I appreciate you saying that that in 8 days, yes, he'll be available. Of course.
Yes.
Wouldn't Stars fans be bullshit with that though? If like bringing back Glenn Golitzin is the answer?
Would they? Probably. I mean, there would definitely be people who push back against it, and I don't want to be harsh here, and this is not about, and this is across all markets, but I don't know how many Stars fans even remember Glenn Golitzin was the coach. I mean, it was 2010, 2011, and like,
yeah, I'll be honest,
the fact of the matter is, exactly. So it's like, I don't know, like, people might say like, oh, there's going to be some diehard people who'll be like, yeah, oh my God, they brought him back. I don't know how many people remember, because this team has gone through, since then, it's been what? Lindy Ruff, Jim Montgomery, Ken Hitchcock, Lindy, now Rick Bowness. I maybe repeated names, but it's been so long since he's been the coach. So it's not like it's not like going to the retread of a guy from 5 years ago. We're talking a long time ago. So maybe you'd get some of that. I think the question is, with Dallas, how are you going to, if you don't take somebody from the current staff, like Elaine Nasruddin has head coaching experience. So maybe you go to Nasruddin and you say, hey, he's already part of the head coaching staff, and just changing the top voice, maybe that's the best solution. But it's not like you're going to go get somebody with a quote unquote more impressive resume right now. Then you're not going to go get that other resume experience guy. So it's a hire where no matter what the Stars do, there's going to be a large portion of the fan base who's going to be like, wait, we let the guy go who was perfect in game sevens for this? No matter who it is, that's going to be the reaction for part of the fan base.
I hate that. Pete knows I hate the DeBoer game 7 stat so much because
I know. I know, but I get it.
Worked great for him last year.
He's great at coin flips.
And this year.
I mean, if you want to go the veteran route too, like Peter Laviolette is available. That would be a guy that
Torts?
Yeah.
Oh my God. You say no?
I would say no, but I also, Stars owner Tom Ghilardi a week ago said, Pete's a top 3 to 5 coach in the league. I don't see how we would ever change him. It's change our coach. And that's what, not even a week ago, he said, I guess, yeah, exactly a week ago. So Tom Ghilardi's decision could be, it's hard to get into his head on this one. So I'd imagine no after how this all ended, but maybe not. Maybe you just think you need someone else to come in and kick the players' asses and do it. I don't know.
Do they? I don't even know what an overcorrection could look like as far as addressing their defense this offseason, but is that basically going to be it? Like I joked yesterday, but I've come around on it. If I'm the Stars, I actually am re-signing Cody Ceci, and then I am trying to find right defensemen who are better than Cody Ceci to play above Cody Ceci, and then voila, you've got Cody Ceci as like a number 4, 5, or 6 defenseman, and you've actually got good right defensemen. Easier said than done, though. But is that basically like plans 1 through 10 plus get a new coach?
Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, I agree with you on Cody Ceci. Cody Ceci took so much heat that just was unnecessary because I don't know what else you expected the Stars to do. Like Miro Heiskanen gets hurt, you have to bolster your defense, and it's not like you were going to go get that guy mid-season that all of a sudden fills all those magical boxes. So like Cody Ceci got a lot of heat basically because we don't live in a video game world where you could go and say, force the Oilers to trade you Evan Bouchard like you were talking about, right? So so if the Stars should bring back Cody Ceci, I think you just have to then bolster on top of where he is. And then the other thing that this team has to just figure out, and that's been the big talking point and everything like that, is how do we play a playoff style? How do we get tougher? Yada, yada, yada. All those cliches right now. They also have to be careful to not overcorrect too far, because I've watched this franchise do that before. The Lindy Ruff was, and this actually is something I've heard was part of the discussions that they talked about. When Lindy Ruff's last year in Dallas, he's coming off best record in the Western Conference the regular season. He doesn't get the contract extension he wants. And they go into, there's an injury to a couple guys in training camp, and Lindy's give a shit meter is pretty low, and they don't really get things done. And then he's fired as a lame duck head coach. He just goes through the end of the year. And the Stars went from that to bringing back Ken Hitchcock. And they went to, I remember I was at the press conference, they bring in Mark Mathot and Martin Hansel. And I remember Jim standing next to them being like, these are the guys that are going to make us so tough to play against. We're talking about Mark Mathot and Martin Hansel. Martin Hansel played like 3.5 games, and Mark Mathot got hurt a ton too. The Stars have overcorrected hard before. They need to look in the mirror right now and not do that too far. You need to add you need to go find your right-handed D. You need to do that, but also realize what you're doing has been good enough to be in the Final Four. What you've been doing is still working. Just don't tear it all down because of one 2 series loss, but don't tear it all down, because this team has done that before, and this GM and owner have done that before. And I think that's the second meeting. They had their talk about, do we bring back Pete DeBoer? Right now, I hope there was somebody was smart in the room when Tom Ghilardi and Jim Nill are sitting there and says to them, okay, great. Remember, we're here. We don't need to rip it all the way down to here and completely change everything like we did before when we went from Lindy to Hitch, and it was a complete disaster.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of where I fall too. It's like it still feels like they're very much knocking on the door. and they just need a battering ram, and they don't have the battering ram right now. Is that fair?
That's fair. Definitely fair. Definitely fair. It's the on the defensive end, there's you need the right-handed shot. You need someone there. The forward group is fine. I mean, if that forward depth is not going to be as cold as it was, I don't think so. They're still there. Edmonton was the better team. Edmonton should have won that series. They should have swept that series, but the Stars are still in that top 5 to 6 range of teams as far as cup contenders this next year, even if they had brought back Pete DeBoer. And I think you need to remember that when you're looking at your revamp or reload or whatever term you want to use for what we're calling this.
Would you trade Jason Robertson?
What for?
Rasmus Anderson.
I
That's
would.
a
Yes.
good one. What's that?
I would. I couldn't hear what did he say? I said yes to yours on Anderson. What was the
Jason Robertson for Rasmus Anderson?
I would do that.
All right.
Are you doing that? That is the answer.
Yeah, it's
for both sides. Like,
I'm thinking about it. I'm at least thinking about it. It's an interesting proposal that you just ripped straight out of your brain.
Well, it was because I saw the chat was probably talking about the Flames for some reason, and Rasmus Anderson was on there, and I was like, oh yeah, like that's the guy though. He was like a minus 900. You hope the Flames blamed their season on him for some reason, and bam, you got a 28-year-old defenseman. I don't know what his contract situation is, but like in his prime, bang. And now suddenly your right side is awesome.
Contract situation is he's due a new contract after next year, which is
Jason Robertson is too.
That's true.
So yep.
Okay,
right.
problem solved.
I would
Sean
do it.
Shapiro.
I mean, I think that's the.
No, sorry,
that's the best one I've heard of anyone throw anything up for. Yeah.
No. Okay, so we got something.
I was
here.
saying
Sean,
that's the best thing I've.
You're the best. We're on some sort of
this
Wi-Fi
latency is
nightmare.
killing us.
Yeah, appreciate you, buddy. Thanks so much for coming on with us. We always love talking to you.
Sounds good. I'll do this.
Don't kill religious leaders. That's what I took away from this conversation. Thank you so much. We love you. Dallas is has become like the team of the offseason over the last week or so, have they not?
Oh, yeah.
Like every time we've done like, all right, let's talk about a little off-season rumor mill. I feel like 9 out of the 10 times we've had the conversation, it's involved the Dallas Stars, which is I did not see coming.
Chat is not liking, or one person is not liking, but they've said multiple things. So
I think it would have to be Anderson plus.
Yeah, I was cool with the trade is 1-for-1. So, and that trade was fine. That's like if you're Dallas, you are quote unquote losing the trade, but a good GM is willing to lose a trade, I think.
That's right. Rasmus Anderson was a minus 38 in 81 games this season, which
totally
is
his fault. Flames.
It's
gotta get him out.
Like the worst offensive
Send him to
team,
Boston.
the worst offensive team in the league this season. His plus minus is not good. I'm shocked.
You should trade him for Mason Lowry is what you should do. Straight up. Who says no?
Oh yeah. Also, I do want to address. I forgot that Mira Haskin is a left shot. He's been playing on the right side for so long. Yeah, I forgot that he was a left shot.
I was doing the like when you're watching
Joy Taylor talking about how Aaron Rodgers is not.
Yes, exactly, and everyone else is just like being nice and like, oh, sorry, I'm not paying attention to what you're saying.
I forgot.
That's what I was doing.
A Mira Haskin Evan Bouchard pairing would go burr.
It would be the greatest.
Taylor Barrett of NHL.com said that Jim Neal said that the comments from Pete DeBoer after Game 5 loss to Edmonton in postseason media was a component that played into the decision, but not the reason for the decision.
I think there were sides to that entree.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
But that was the
entree.
Yeah,
I have to
probably
imagine.
Agree.
Yeah,
that was the meal. No NHL lockout. Bummer. We're used to having those. We got them in the early 2000s. We got one in 2012. It seems that we are not getting one because after the current CBA was extended through 2026, and it's obviously coming up in September of 2026. Gary Bettman the other day said that things are looking good, and Elliot Friedman says that it should be done, a new CBA, quote, very soon. This is strange days for hockey fans, that they might not have to worry about there being a lockout.
Yeah, I don't think it's a disappointment.
No, that's the worst of the NHL. And the NHL offers some bad.
Yeah, and having to do a daily NHL show during like a lockout would be a real tough scene for your boys. We would
not really. We'd figure it out real quick.
I mean, some of my best sports writing days happened during the pandemic when I was just writing about like my disintegrating hygiene. So like I think that we would find a way to put together an interesting show. But I much prefer to do an interesting show with hockey. So this is very great news.
Another miscellaneous NHL note. Pierre LeBrun says on TSN 1050 that Sam Bennett and the Panthers have not been close. And that Bennett might stay with the Panthers, but teams are believed to be willing to go to $10 million per year for him. So we've had the $10 million reports. We've had it's going to be more like $8 million reports. If it is $10 million per year, the Florida Panthers simply must shed many tears and bid their sweet bald asshole adieu.
I would agree with that. Yeah. It just connected that DeBoer's not the only coach that's talked himself out of a job this season.
Torts.
Yeah, right.
I said that.
Oh, I did not register.
See, I pretend to not hear you if you're saying something that might be a little fishy.
I just don't listen.
Truly don't hear me. Yeah. Like that was does this guy know that we're all hearing what he's saying and is going to get fired for this? Yeah. Torts, DeBoer, but DeBoer bald. Also, Sam Bennett, bald. Going to make $10 million. Another thought I had on the Panthers and signing guys, if they don't re-sign Brad Marchand, different type of player, but you know who they should sign?
Who?
We know they're going to sign Jeff Skinner.
Yep. Panthers
should sign Trent Frederick. Frederick would be a perfect Panther.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe. I guess. I just feel like Trent Frederick screams to me going to a team lower on the ladder and him wanting a bigger role. Because he's not trying to keep his career window open at this point. I don't think. Maybe it more feels like he's trying to find solid ground where he can have as big a role as possible.
If I'm Trent Frederick, I am taking a 1 or 2 year deal with the Edmonton Oilers or the Florida Panthers for low money. You are going to be in prime spotlight, seen all the time, and people will call you part of that team's identity. You know how many players other than Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl could be called identity players on a team with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl? And do you know how many the Panthers have so many guys like that, but Trent Frederick would stick out because he's got the high voice and he's a little more annoying back there. Frederick, I think, should go to one of those teams for 1 or 2 years, low money, and then he's going to get a big contract from somebody.
I think it's a risk. It's definitely a risk. Because right now he's 27 and heading towards UFA, and if he can get a longer deal, especially in a year where people are excited about the cap going up and money being freed up, he might be able to get a 5-ish year deal that serves him better in the long run.
He could do one of these weird long-term deals. He could do the Blues might sign him for 5 years times $3 million, but then you kind of might disappear.
I mean, you might disappear if he takes a 1 or 2 year deal with a contending team and then isn't even cracking that lineup for a year or two.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, the Oilers' experience should, when he's seeing who has been scratched,
Jeff Skinner,
yeah. Victor Arvidsson, just regularly not playing. I could see that. Yeah, he's going to be an interesting one. Free agency's going to rock. Okay, Sean, could you give me a slate, if you would? Oh my goodness, look at it. Panthers at Oilers, Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final on TNT, 8 p.m. Eastern in the United States and Canada. Edmonton Oilers looking to take a 2-0 series lead. Florida Panthers looking to tie it up. Oh, we don't do takeaways, but can we do predictions?
I am predicting a much better game from the Florida Panthers tonight.
I think that both teams have reason to say, guys, that last one wasn't good enough. Like, I think that both teams are in a position where they're going to feel the need to respond. Even though the Oilers were fine the whole way, other than that second period, it was, I mean, obviously the team that lost should be a little more desperate and feel a little more upset with how things went. But I think that both teams probably want to play a lot better. This is going to be, to compare it to last year, which is foolish. Last year, Panthers weren't great in game one and were like snapped out of it, blew doors in game two. I would say that both teams were very good in game one this time. So less of a what the hell, boys, is in order for either team, but I think that the Panthers are going to be quite desperate. I think that either way, knock on wood, who knows? I think that either way, this series is 2-1 after 3 games.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I'd be pretty surprised and disappointed if it weren't. Although last year it was 3-0 and we ended up getting a pretty good series.
Yeah. Sean, can you give me a prediction?
I think the Oilers are probably going to win. I feel like there's been too much Game 5 talk, and we're not guaranteed that yet.
So, Sean, you've been all over the map with just wanting to like fuck me on this series. You think me wanting to go to Game 5? You want to ruin that by having the Oilers sweep? Is that what you want to do to me?
No, you could go to Game 4 in Florida. I know that's not as fun as Edmonton, but
I'll tell you what. I've been scoping. I've been on Vivid Seats scoping out Game 3 prices because famously someone has a birthday this weekend. Someone who is not new to birthdays. Someone who is so old to birthdays that it's kind of his 1,000,000th birthday, and
Happy
was
birthday,
discussing,
Sean.
happy birthday, Sean. Like, what do you want to do for your birthday? And I was like, if you're asking me sincerely, I want to fly to Florida and then go to Game 3. That's what I want to do. So, looking at Vivid Seats.
I'm kind of hoping that the Florida Panthers win tonight. Not
good
behavior
like, if you're rooting for the Oilers, but
I mean, it's not good. I'm rooting for the Oilers, but more than rooting for the Oilers, I'm rooting for one hell of a series.
You just want one hell of a series.
Yeah.
Look, Oilers can win tonight, and I would still think that it'll be 2-1 after 3 games. So no matter what happens tonight, again, we said going into Game 1, no matter what happens, we're not saying okay, this means this. No matter what happens tonight, we're not saying that it won't be one hell of a series. Can we guarantee that?
Bang.
Okay. Good slate. Chat is just sad about defensemen for the Stars, I assume. Okay. Appreciate everybody who has watched the show. Make sure you are subscribed everywhere. We have hit 16,000 subscribers, 16 million even on YouTube. We appreciate that, but make sure you're also subscribed on Instagram, on the TikTok, on the Blueski. People are using Twitter again?
I hope so, because if you weren't using Twitter yesterday, you missed one hell of a day.
Okay.
I have officially unblocked Elon Musk. I think I'm going to block him again because I unblocked him and like 3 minutes later, my entire feed was Elon Musk. And I was like, I can't do this.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Okay. Tell him to ampli.
Don't block us. We're not Elon. Please hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button right below the video player. It's the thumbs up button. Give us a comment. Leave us a comment. Say, who do you trade Jason Robertson for? Leave that in the comments.
Love that. Tag Eileen.
Yes, just tag Eileen incessantly. If you're on audio, leave a review on Apple Podcasts and say, this podcast knows a lot about trading Jason Robertson, which is rare for a hockey podcast. Something like that. Anything like that. Anything you can do to amplify, whether it's social media, whether it's podcasts, whether it's YouTube. We very much appreciate the support. We're also on Discord. You can find the Discord link right below in the video description. So any way you can stay in touch with us, become part of the community. I will say hello to you at the beginning of episodes, and the rest of this podcast will get really mad about it.
Oh, we're also streaming tonight.
Yeah, that's right. We have a watch along stream tonight.
Make
there
sure.
you go.
Oh,
whoa, Sean, ready to go.
Look at that. Wonderful. That's it's Leon Draisaitl. Look, imagine if there were an ad on that mouth guard. Problem solved. Look at him sucking that thing down. Okay. Thanks, friends. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
all silly like the mayor.